There was a gardener, and he had this centuries-old bonsai tree in his backyard. And one day he had noticed that the tree was not thriving. Its leaves weren't coming out. And he had been caring for this tree for years and years. So he tried to fix the soil. He tried to alter the soil. And, he noticed that there was another tree that had grown really big. So he thought, well, maybe it's the sun. I'll cut off some of the branches so it gets better sunlight. And still, that tree was not thriving. And he went to his mentor, and his mentor said, maybe you need to examine those roots. Just a hunch. And with a little bit of hesitancy, he went ahead and dug down deeper and deeper to look at the roots. And he found the tree was bound up by an old pot. It had been planted with a pot, and the roots were actually bound inside the pot. And so he pulled the tree out and took the pot out and replanted it. And lo and behold, it thrived after that. And I wonder if that's what happens to us sometimes. We're meant to grow, we're meant to thrive, we're meant to continue to grow our roots deeper and to blossom and bloom. But sometimes we might be constrained by a pot that's our former self or our beliefs or our ways of being. And it's not like, Spirit meant us not to thrive. The pot constrained the plant that was meant to grow. And sometimes we have those original beliefs, sometimes inherited by our culture, by our parents, by where we grew up, by things we learned as a kid, and it's still limiting us today. So this month we're talking about ready, set, initiate. So ready is my talk is about ready. Are you ready? And how do you get ready? I think the thing is that we need to learn how to allow our spiritual nature to express more fully through us. And the first step is to look at the roots of our beliefs, to look at what potentially could be constraining us, what old habits, what assumptions, what ways of being, what fears do we have could be constraining us from that next iteration of our own expression. And so you have to ask yourself, am I ready to move beyond my own limits? Am I ready to allow the limitless power of Spirit to flow through me, to use me? And if I am, perhaps all of us collectively together can step into this idea of having 2025 be our most healthy, wealthy, and wise year. To truly invite the newness in our lives, though, we have to release the old. We have to give it up. So let's explore how to release outdated patterns, how to release that constraining way of being to make room for our spiritual growth. I was looking at this, and I had a question inviting me into, what is that next iteration? And I came up with some things that were my own habitual things that I continually overcome. For instance, there's a pot, and I take the pot away, and then my roots grow out a little bit deeper, and then there's another blockage because there's another pot there. It's like, take that away and growing deeper. Oh, there's another pot there. Oh, the two things I was thinking about for this specifically is one, a scarcity mindset, and also the resistance to change. I grew up in a household. My parents divorced when I was quite young, and there were many times when we didn't have a lot of money. I'll just say that. I know my mom had told me there was times when it's like, shall I get you shoes or shall we get food on the table? And growing up in, I'll say, lower middle class, we had a house, and there was also this kind of not enough feeling, and it has permeated my family until I finally got into this teaching, and I realized I was just perpetuating that experience of not enoughness, because it was scary to think about, gosh, owning a house. It just seemed like it was impossible. It was for people who were not me. Or getting a job that was double my income of what I was getting at the time. I remember I first started in Center for Spiritual Living, and I was getting paid, I don't know, like $20,000 a year or something like that, and I was like, I want to double my income, and it was just like mind-blowing to think that possibility. But that's because of where I came from and what I thought was possible. But the infinite universe, Spirit itself, God itself, is abundance itself. And I think the thing that I was brought up with is this idea that there's a pie, and then whenever I give you, let's say, I'll just say half a pie. If I gave you half a pie, then what I think is left is half a pie. But the way Spirit works is if I give half a pie away, I still have a full pie. That's how the infinite nature of Spirit is. It is the source of all, which means, and infinite means that there is no end to it. So whatever you're giving away, it just continually flows. It's like a fountain that just keeps going. I give water away from the fountain is still flowing. And that's how the infinite presence works. But I didn't have that context. I had the pie context of like, if I give away some, then I only have what's left over. But that's true for us in all areas of our lives. And I can notice sometimes whenever I get to the edge of my belief where I'm like, oh, there's a new possibility here, and then I can notice my uncomfortability or my fears of stepping into that newness. The scarcity mindset. The idea that resources, time, money, love, opportunities are finite. There's a minimum amount. And that there's not enough for everyone. The way that this belief manifests is a fear of loss, hoarding, or a competitive approach to life. There used to be this belief mindset in this spiritual community, I'll say, in Centers for Spiritual Living, that we had this rule that you could only start a community with like outside of 5 miles of another one. And that idea was to try and kind of spread this teaching out further and further. But then it also, for me, brought up this idea that we're in competition. That all the Centers for Spiritual Living in the same area are in competition with each other. And yet, at every corner, you might see a Christian church a block away from each other. The Christians did not have that belief system. They're like, keep the good word going. Let's do it. Let's go next door. All right. But it just shows how these ways of thinking can manifest even in large communities like this. It limits growth because it contains or constrains our ability to dream big, to take risks, and to trust in the abundance of Spirit, the abundance of God, the abundance of the universe, the abundance of our source that is infinite and everywhere present. It makes us unable to recognize the flow of good that can come in our way. Because sometimes our own belief that it's not there prohibits us from seeing that good from happening. Imagine a farmer who had a handful of seeds, and he didn't want to lose this crop that he had, so he only planted a couple of seeds. And so he only got a little bit of results. There was another farmer. She had a handful of seeds, and she planted all of them and was able to have a harvest of more than she could have. And that's how we are sometimes. I mean, come on, the pandemic, that's how we were with toilet paper. I'm like, why is all the toilet paper going away? I don't know. It's like, what are we hoarding? What are we holding on to? What are we fearing there's not going to be enough of? There's not enough resources on this planet. Well, there are enough resources on this planet. There's enough resources on this planet for everybody to have clean water and food. And yet, what is preventing it? A scarcity mindset. That's a collective mindset making an impact. So one thing whenever you have, when you notice you have a scarcity mindset, is just become aware. Am I hoarding this? Am I hoarding this out of fear? Or am I keeping this because it's something that brings me joy? Do I need 50 pairs of Christmas socks? Yes, I do. We'll start on Thanksgiving, and then that's not quite 50, but you could get 2 pairs in a day, so. Once you notice that you're hoarding, if you notice it is out of fear, then one thing to do is to cultivate gratitude. Is to appreciate what you have right now, because gratitude is actually the secret door to abundance. And then, which seems counterintuitive, when you feel like you're getting constricted, the way to counter it is to give things away. And it's a perfect time. People do spring cleaning. I often like to do January cleaning. What can I let go of? What needs to recirculate out into the world? Because what did they say? Like, one person's trash is another person's treasure? Yeah, and that's true. I can tell you, there's been a lot of people's trash that's been my treasure. It's like, I love going to used stores. But the act of giving disrupts your scarcity mindset. The act of giving actually says, I know that there's a flow to life, and I believe in it, and I trust in it. So where in your life are you operating as if there's not enough? Where are you looking that belief system is limiting my potential to grow? That's not possible. I have a friend who called me the other day. She attends the center in San Jose. And she said, I just want you to know what an impact you've had on me. It was just like one of these out of the blue calls. She attended Sister Spirit several years ago, and she said, what was really cool is you and David Bruner kept asking me the question, what could you do if you knew you could not fail? So it turns out she decided to go to law school. And after she was almost finished through law school, she got hit by a car while riding her bike and almost died a week before the bar exam. Had a traumatic brain injury, and managed to still know she was going to complete law school. It took her almost a year to recover, which she did through yoga and sound healing, and also prayer and affirmation, knowing that anything is possible when you got Spirit on your side. Which means anything's possible, because Spirit is always on your side. And she said, if you hadn't said those things, if you hadn't believed in me, if you hadn't said that anything is possible to me, I would not have had the courage to get my law degree. What else is possible? How can it get any better than this? What shift would happen if you planted all your seeds? and you trusted in the universe's abundance. So the second thing that I noticed was something that I've had as a pattern that I continually expand and grow beyond is a resistance to change. Which, what I recognize is oftentimes I'm the one making the change, it's not as hard. But when something else is changing in the universe that I don't necessarily agree with, I might resist it a little bit. It could come in the form of politics. It could come in the form of, a family member passing. It could come in all different types of forms. And I notice I resist it. So what happens when I resist it? That means that I'm having a fear of the unknown and I want to be in control of it all. I hope I'm not the only one here. But when I resist change, it blocks me from growth. It limits me from stepping outside of my comfort zone. It's like keeping that bonsai tree in the original pot. There was a story of a Sufi man who, in a flood, he clung to a raft that in a former flood had saved his life. But that had been 10 years earlier, and the raft had been out in the sun and cracked and everything. And he just kept holding on to this raft because he knew in a former flood it saved his life. And there were people who came by who tried to pick him up, and he just was like, no, I'm going to hold on to this raft. And unfortunately, he didn't make it through the flood. And that's because he was clinging on to something that served its time. It had a right time and a right place. And he wanted to keep that thing as if it were the only thing that could be that possibility, instead of looking at the next new iteration. And I wonder, what areas are we doing that in our lives? What things are we clinging on to that serve their purpose? They had a right and perfect time. They had something that did some good in your life. And now it's time to let it go. Lao Tzu taught, when I let go of what I am, I become who I might be. So, where are you clinging to outdated ways of being? One thing you can do is practice mindfulness, is to sit in the discomfort of it. Because often change and the new is uncomfortable. Do you remember doing something for the first time? Anything. Doing something for the first time, at least for me, really uncomfortable. I remember speaking in front of a large community, having it videotaped for the first time. I was nervous. I'm still nervous, actually, but not as nervous as I was then. And I also remember the first time I was in a play in 6th grade. I have this old video cassette from when I was in a play, and I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe blah, 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 blah. And I mean, it was just like, I was freaking out. I was not moving. I was not comfortable. I was just like, what are my lines? I cannot remember them. But anything you do, and you do it for the first time or the second time or the third time, whenever I rode the light rail for the first time, I was like, I feel so uncomfortable. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Where am I supposed to go? How do I get the ticket? And then, people rushing by me to go get their tickets. They just boop, 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 and they just go on. And I'm like, I don't know how to do this. But that's part of it. That's part of the growth and expansion of life, is oftentimes when we're doing something new for the first many times, it's uncomfortable. So can you be in the discomfort of the newness? Are you willing to be open to it? And instead of seeing it as something that's a hindrance, welcome it. Know that it's something that is opening you to your largest good. Think about what raft you might be clinging to that's outlived its purpose. What fears come up when you are letting go of the familiar? You know, Sherry Dolly and I were having this conversation. I know she's here somewhere, but there she is. We're having a conversation about singing. Now, singing is scary. It's scary. I'm much more comfortable speaking in front of an audience than I am singing in front of an audience. But I used this story because somebody had told me I was a young kid and I was in a church choir, and this I don't know why I asked this question of the adults after I sang in this kids' church choir. I was like, was I off key? And the adults said, yes, you were, but you're a kids' choir. It's adorable. And immediately, because they said, yes, you were off key, I decided I couldn't sing. And then I started making fun of myself for my entire life for many, many years. I can't sing. Make sure I'm in the back. I mouthed words when people were singing songs. I did not want to share my voice. And then I was in a sweat lodge at Sister Spirit, and I had the musician that we had hired. She was with me, and we were just singing a song in the sweat lodge. It's very dark. You can't see anything. You don't know who's singing what. Everybody's just singing together, and we were singing this beautiful song, and I was having a great time. And then we went from the sweat lodge to a couple hours later. I was facilitating a session, and the musician was singing, and then she was like, sing with me, Abigail. And I was like, what? And I knew in that moment, I couldn't not sing because I'm the facilitator. I'm supposed to walk my talk, but I was terrified of singing. I didn't want anybody to know that. And it was really scary. It was really scary. And I did, and I sang, and then I cried after that because it was so frightening. And every time I sing, it's always that uncomfortable feeling, and I have those voices in my head, the voice that I said to myself of you can't sing and you're off key and all this stuff. It just comes up. It still comes up. I'm still working on this. But I'm a lot better, and I keep trying to sing publicly, which is really uncomfortable. God bless you, LaVon. And I keep doing it. Because I know that singing is an instrument, it's a creative expression that the infinite great Creator gave to me and every single person who has a voice. That we are all meant to express ourselves. And maybe my instrument isn't as tuned as Jake's instrument. But that doesn't mean it isn't beautiful and perfect just as it is. And we're all on this path together of evolution into our highest and greatest good. So can we step into it in a way that this year is a transformative year for our good? May we have the courage to be the fullness of ourselves. What we came here to be expressed, and each person's expression is different and unique and necessary and needed and part of something holy in this world. Your voice matters. You matter. And your own original, unique expression was designed by the Holy Spirit. It wanted to be expressed through you. And there's something in you that knows that truth without a doubt. There's something in you that wants to be fully expressed. And maybe this is the year to bring it on. Maybe this is the year to be fully yourself. Maybe this is the year for the highest and greatest good to expand in your life like you've never known it before. I'm going to claim that for each and every one of us. So one last thing. There's a story about Ganesha, the remover of obstacles. And there was a poor man, he prayed to Ganesha daily for wealth, but he never took any steps. He prayed every single day, Ganesha, bring me wealth. Ganesha, bring me wealth. And then one day, Ganesha appeared with a golden axe, saying, "Use this axe to break down the walls that trap you." And the man stood with the axe, and he thought, this is too easy. This is a trick. I'm not going to do this BS. And so he didn't. And he stayed poor his whole life because he never took action in alignment with his dreams. And that could be us. Spirit gave us all the tools and the resources for our full unfoldment. And are we using them? So this may be the year to claim and know your own spiritual birthright. To take actions in alignment with what you declare yourself to be, what you know the infinite presence is calling you forth into this world. But you have to take action. You see, Spirit, what is it that Spirit can't do to us what it can do through us? What is that? I forgot that. It can only do for us what it does through us because it acts through us. This isn't about somebody else making a community happen. This is about you creating community. If you don't have friends, you know what it is? It's you being a friend to people. If you want to be prosperous, it's about what are you giving away? What are you showing the world that you are a prosperous person? Who are you going to be this year? And are you willing to take actions in alignment with who that is? You can even imagine in yourself, who is that ideal person that I know myself to be? And then say, what kind of actions would that person be taking? And then make some plans. Just take one step to make it happen. So that's my invitation to you. I encourage you to recognize your old patterns. Free your roots so you can grow fully. Ask yourself, what beliefs are no longer serving me? Release your prejudices, your preconceptions. Break down limiting walls. Let go of the old that maybe served its purpose and bless it on its way. It might be a relationship. It might be a job. It might be clothing or something in your house. But let it go and bless it on its way. And then ask, what actions am I willing to take to be in alignment with who I know myself to be? So I have some homework for you. The first thing is to ask yourself in a journal entry, what can I release today to make room for something new? Every day, from now until next week, just ask yourself, what can I release today to make room for something new? The second thing is to create a gratitude practice. If you don't have one, start one. Or just try it on for a week. Try it on for size. Be grateful for what you have. The third thing is to take action. Take one step in alignment with your truth. And I know that Jerry and Kathy Ann are going to talk more about this over this month. So you're not going to be left without resources. You're not going to be left without tools. We're going to keep you going on this path so that you can claim this year and be the most healthy, wealthy, and wise ever. And the last thing is to do your spiritual practices. If you don't have spiritual practices, there's all kinds of opportunities in this community for spiritual practices. Next week, we're kicking off a morning meditation. It's going to be at 8:30 downstairs. The practitioners have Monday meditation going on online, for those of you who are online. We have classes that are happening. We have the next week, we're going to do the vision board workshop. So if you want to create a vision board, Reverend Jerry's teaching a mental equivalence class. If you want to understand more about how those belief systems might be constraining you, it's a great class to take. Sign up for something. Take the initiative. Are you ready? Because I am. Let's pray. I recognize and know that the infinite presence, the almighty, all-knowing, omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent, source of all that is, continues to resource my life over and over and over again. That I am connected to, a part of, immersed in, swimming in the source of all life. That it loves me so much that it birthed itself so it could just be me uniquely, originally. And that my voice matters, and so does every person's voice that's here. And so I recognize and know that truth. Any patterns, any beliefs, any ways of being that I see in my way, I just say, get thee behind me. Because you know what I have on my side? I got Spirit, I got God, I got Source, I got the infinite presence. And it can break down any walls, any barriers, any challenges in front of me. That it makes the way clear and easy for me this year, that this year is a year of transformation, of growth, of power, of grace. And so I allow that power and grace to make its way before me, filled with joy and prosperity and harmony, so that every single aspect of my life is up-leveled. My relationships, my community, my family, my prosperity, my abundance, my health, that all of it is here and ready to be expanded as good. And I know that because the infinite presence is infinite, its good is unlimited. So there is no end to the good for me to receive. So even if I'm prosperous, I can be more prosperous. Even if I'm healthy, I can be more healthy. Even if I have great relationships, they can deepen and grow and expand. And if any one of those things are missing in my life, I know that the possibility and the potentiality of them is available to me now. And so I allow Spirit to remove those blocks, to take them away so that I can thrive and grow like I was meant to be. And since this is my day and this is my year, I claim it to be just for me, so that I'm free, that is easy, and that is filled with ways that I love. Joy-filled, fancy-filled, fun and free. That's the life for me. And as I claim that truth for myself, I claim it for each and every person here, each and every person who's online, who's listening to these words. I claim it, I know it, I declare it. And as I declare it, I know God says, why, yes. Yes, I am. Yes, I will. Yes, this is what I came here to be. And so thank you for finally saying yes to me, because that's what I came to be. And so in gratitude and appreciation, I am grateful for the fulfillment of my life, for the fulfillment of this year, for the fulfillment of my truest intention, knowing that my good is a benefit for everybody else, and everybody else's good is a benefit for me as well. That we collectively say yes to this together. And so it is. Blessings.